2 police officers knocked on my door for the third time in 6 weeks, telling me they had received another anonymous welfare check request claiming I was neglecting and mistreating my elderly mother-in-law who lives with us. My name is Teresa. I am 35. My mother-in-law Carol moved in with my husband and me 18 months ago after her hip surgery, and I have been her primary caregiver every single day since, cooking her meals, driving her to appointments, managing every medication. The first time officers showed up, back in early May, I assumed it was a mistake, some wrong address, and they left within 10 minutes once they saw Carol sitting comfortably in her recliner watching television, completely unharmed and well cared for. The second visit came 3 weeks later, officers again, this time with a caseworker from Adult Protective Services, asking to see Carol's medication logs, her weight records, and whether she had any unexplained bruising. Carol herself was confused and upset by the visits, telling the caseworker over and over that I treated her better than her own daughter ever had, but the caseworker still had to document everything and file another report regardless. After the second visit, I asked the officer directly where these complaints kept coming from, and he told me policy prevented him from disclosing the source, but he mentioned this was now the second report from the exact same anonymous tip line number. I started keeping a written log of every meal I cooked, every appointment I drove Carol to, every medication given on time, printing pharmacy records, and photographing her medication organizer weekly, just in case a third visit came. It did come, 6 weeks after the first, and this time the caseworker seemed almost apologetic, telling me most families never get reported this many times, and that someone was clearly determined to make this look like ongoing neglect. I began quietly asking around, and Carol's home health aide, a woman named Bethany, who visited twice a week for physical therapy, mentioned that Carol's daughter, my sister-in-law Renee, had been asking her strange questions during recent visits. Renee had asked Bethany whether Carol seemed underweight, sad, or ever left alone, questions Bethany found odd, since Renee rarely visited Carol herself and had shown little interest in her care before this. Bethany also mentioned Renee had recently asked Carol to consider moving in with her instead, into a house Renee had just refinanced, one that badly needed the extra income Carol's Social Security check could provide. That night I pulled up old text messages between Renee and Carol that Carol had shown me months earlier, complaints from Renee about needing money, about her own mortgage payments falling behind, sent right around the time the very first police visit happened. I sat at my kitchen table with 3 months of caregiving logs, medication photos, and a timeline lining up perfectly with Renee's financial messages. And I finally understood exactly who had been calling in false reports on me. I brought everything to the caseworker myself, the logs, the photos, and Renee's own text messages, asking Carol for money right before each report was filed. The caseworker cross-checked the anonymous tip number and confirmed it matched a phone registered to Renee. Carol was furious once she saw the messages, and told Renee she was no longer welcome in her life after using her own mother as a financial pawn. The report stopped instantly, but so did any relationship Renee had left with either of us.